Welcome to Scarves and Spikes.
Hello to all the Atlanta United fans. My name is Jurgen Damm, and you are watching Scarves and Spike, an Atlanta United podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to Hate Orlando Week and Scarves and Spikes.
Which is it?
I would say it's Hate Orlando Week, right? We need to bring it back because we talked about this, I think, last week, Sydney. You seem to downplay the hatred for Orlando, so I'm bringing that back.
I didn't downplay it.
You said we could have had a derby with Charlotte. But this is a derby. This is because they are our original derby. They are our original hatred. So I'm making sure that everyone understands that we still hate you, Orlando. We still hate you.
I mean, it's a derby. I'm not debating that it's a derby, but yeah, I mean, first time in the playoffs.
We're increasing it. We're kicking it up a notch.
Okay, wait, but here's the thing, right? Every derby needs a name, right? You got El Tráfico, you got Hell is Real. What's the name for this derby?
I feel like we've had 7 years to give this, 8 years to give this thing a name. So
For real, man.
I don't know.
If it's such a derby, why doesn't it have a name already?
Maybe we can workshop it during the show tonight.
Drop the proposed
What year
names
is
in
it?
the comments.
What year is it that we're trying to come up with a name for Orlando, Atlanta? It seems like this is so long. There had to be something back then, right?
Yeah.
I don't remember, but
None
All
of
right,
our
we'll figure it
derbies
out.
none of our derbies have names.
Yeah.
If you think about
well,
it.
they're always thoughts, right? Everybody's workshopping it, and they never actually come up with one. So maybe we really just don't have a rival, and it's just us, right? FEA, I guess. Screw them all, right? I'm trying to be PG right now. It's only
There you go.
7:02,
Well
so
done.
once we get to 7:30, then we'll start bringing that out. But welcome, Scarves and Spikes, again. I'm here with Sydney, and this is not Tyler without a beard. This is Henry.
Yeah.
How's it going, Henry?
It's pretty good, Tommy. You might need some new material. I think I've heard that joke like 400 times.
I'm working on it. I got to bring back the same old jokes. Look, when I've watched Ghostbusters 2, 3, 4, they all have the same jokes. You got to stick with them.
Well,
So we'll go with it.
hold yourself to a higher standard here at Scarves and Spikes, though.
No, well, Ghostbusters
You know what
is
they
the
say
highest
about
standard.
sequels?
That most of them are great. Before we go, let me just, I got to give a shout out to the Battered Herons. I got a package today in the mail, and it said, Tommy one time. And if you're listening, I'll post it on social media. But he sent me a Believe
shirt.
Atlanta United shirt. And he
Nice.
also sent me a really cool.
I think your mic cut out.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
there
it's
we go.
talking. There you go. We got him now.
There we go. But he sent me a Suarez shirt as well that was just Guzan yelling at Suarez. So I'm going to wear that one out. But yeah, guys, it's match week. It is November 20th. We thought we would be, a decent part into our off season, but we still go. How you guys feeling?
Strangely optimistic. And optimistic, really, this whole playoff, series, especially after Miami. I feel like the break has kind of, again, I don't want to keep treading on this, but it's really stunted the momentum. So you hope that if you're Atlanta United, you come out ready, you come out with that same spirit, that same energy that you've had against Miami and apply it to Orlando. I guess that's kind of how I feel, Henry.
Yeah. I mean, just keep doing what you were doing before the break. Continue the FEA, which, I mean, if you're following the team's socials, they put out a video of the players explaining what the name is.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, no, just keep.
What is it?
So it was what is FEA but wrong answers only.
Right.
So they came up with some pretty fun stuff. So definitely watch that. Hashtag not sponsored, but yeah, no, basically just continue the vibes, keep doing what you're doing, and yeah, I mean you've beat Orlando 2 other times already. You beat them twice this season. Just do it again, man, and then you're into the conference finals.
Well, they won once, right? They won, of course, decision day. But Orlando, I feel, didn't they win at Mercedes-Benz Stadium?
Yes.
Or am I remember that wrong?
No.
Well, Atlanta won 2-0 in that game.
Atlanta won.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought Orlando won that one, but
No, that was at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
Got it.
Second home game, I think.
Just like forever. Yeah. No. Yeah.
You're correct.
Just like forever ago.
I know, right?
It's been a long season.
It really is.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we'll get into that. We got some news. We got some news about some coaches and players that don't have to do with Atlanta United but have connections. So we'll get to that in a minute. But scarvesandspikes.com. Check out all the articles that these guys write here. And great job of everything. Gray had a great article about up-and-coming players. Join the Patreon. Discord, fantastic. We're always having interesting conversations in there. It should only continue to get crazier as we get towards Sunday, then get towards the off season.
Yeah.
And all the rumors that have been going. And once we get into the news, you'll know what we've been chatting about in the Discord nonstop, because it's been nonstop Atlanta United Tide news.
Yeah.
Check out the store. We've got mugs, shirts, hoodies. We actually brought Henry here to model all of it, so that's the main reason why he's here. So thank you. Thank you, Merch Man, for hanging out with us. See, I called you Merch Man. You can't say, if I would have been trying to be mean, I would have called you Merch Boy. Merch Man. You are
a walking
of drinking
Stars
age now.
Spikes billboard.
Cool.
Right.
When do I get paid for this again?
Huh? We'll work
When do I
on
get
that.
paid for this?
Anyways, subscribe on YouTube. We appreciate it. Get all the alerts, and if you were subscribed, then you were the first one to get an alert that Sydney and Tyler did a interview with Mr. Fortune, and it was a great interview.
Yeah, definitely watch if you haven't on YouTube.
We're very fortunate that you got to do that.
Yes. Thank you, Henry.
But
Well
you
done.
were not fortunate if you were not subscribed. So please subscribe. All right.
Yes.
So let's get into it. So we've had some interesting coaching news out there, right? And I'll start with you, Henry. Who was the first finalist for the Atlanta United manager position?
Yeah. So the first finalist, I think it was like a month ago or so that we heard about it first. It was Patrick Vieira, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's been like the long time rumor at this point. People saying like, oh, it's most likely going to be Vieira. He's got to be the top candidate. It's definitely going to be Vieira. And now this week we learned via, I think it was Fabrizio Romano that first reported it. I don't remember who.
I think it was Tom.
It was Tom?
Yeah, it might have been Tom, I think.
Well, basically reporting that Vieira took the job at Genoa, which is in Italy. So obviously that eliminates him from being Atlanta United's next manager. So cross him off the list, and we're left with who else is on that list? We don't really know.
Guardiola.
We haven't heard.
We don't know. Obviously, one of the names has to be Rob. Like, we know that he's in consideration still. There's no way that he isn't with the playoff run that the team is having right now. And then there's obviously the name that was floated around. The other one's Jim Curtin, which I know a lot of Atlanta United fans probably aren't super thrilled to hear him. But he is, apparently Atlanta United wanted to interview him early when Pineda was fired, and he declined. He recently, I believe it was last week that it came out that he was let go by the Philadelphia Union. So he's looking for a job. He's one of the, better coaches in MLS, a coach that has longtime MLS experience and clearly knows how to, make a team successful with not a whole lot of funding. Let's be real. And so imagine what you can do with Arthur Blank's checkbook. So clearly, like, he has to be probably, I'd say, in the running again. I think the podcast that Tom Bogert does, Soccer Wise, he mentioned that Garth was, I don't know if it was Garth specifically or like just Atlanta United in general, but they were very keen to get Jim Curtin. They really, really wanted him. So that, do with that information what you will. I don't think the interest, I think you mentioned the interest hasn't really gone anywhere, or the interest hasn't left. Basically, Atlanta United would still like Jim Curtin, and you have a chance now that he doesn't have a job to maybe say, hey, rethink your words, and come on over to the north side.
I mean, he's won. He's a winner in MLS. And that's what we want, a winner in MLS that knows the game, that knows what it's like to succeed in this league. Henry, you said it. He had like a shoestring budget, really, in Philadelphia. I think they're like one of the bottom 5 teams in spending in MLS, at least in 2024. And I don't want to like tread over this again because I know the fans have just already mentioned it because of his comments, against Atlanta, but you kind of forgive and forget, right? I mean, he's got to be the top name of the list, right? One other name, I'll throw this out there for you guys, and someone said it in the chat, Gio Savarese. Now, Savarese, his contract ends, and Tommy, you're shaking your head no, but his contract he was under contract with Portland through 2025 when he was fired. That's a name that we haven't heard a whole lot about, and now he could just be biding his time for another year because he'll still be getting paid by Portland. But that's a name that we haven't heard about. Tommy, you're shaking your head no pretty just vigorously. Pass. Why?
No, I'd rather have Jim Curtin there.
Why?
Well, first off, you were moving on to the next name. With Jim Curtin, it's personal with a lot of fans, right? And I think one of the things I try to teach my kids is you don't burn bridges, right? Like, and that's kind of what he tried to do there. And I don't think anyone really thought that Philadelphia would let him go and that, we'd be in the situation where we're interested in him. But obviously it's an entirely new organization, right? Like, you've got Garth here, and, he wasn't here when these comments were made, and nor do I think that he really cares. He just cares about winning. But with that said, is that there's just, and the comments in here, I mean, some of them, like, Jim Curtin's a bum. Like, the guy's not a bum. Like, the guy's a winner, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, they had a bad year, but like everyone said, he hasn't had very good rosters, but he's been able to turn shit into gold.
He was one Gareth Bale header away from MLS Cup.
Exactly, and that's not fair to Jim Curtin, really. Like, I've seen people say, I'm going to cancel season tickets if Jim Curtin's head coach. Come on, guys, let's calm down.
Well, but some people said that too, that they were going to they got rid of their season tickets and winning has brought them back in, right? We've seen those tweets too. So, I mean, I'm not telling you whether to be happy or not about it or to cancel, depending on what the situation is. It's just that if you want to win and you find that he's the best one, right? And someone says Philly ball is annoying, and we get that, right? Like, there's certain situations where, right. Well, it is. And like, we talk about the dark arts, right? Like, that's Tyler's favorite thing to say. The dark arts is what happens. Everyone hates when the dark arts happen to us. But when it is, people are praising and going, oh, smart move. Stay down, right? And that's, it's like when you get like, in hockey, there's always a goon, right? And you hate when you play against him. But then all of a sudden he gets traded to your team and he's your favorite player, right? Because he's doing those hijinks to the teams that you're playing against instead of towards you. So I don't know. It's a tough decision here. But Garth is for sure not looking at what he said about the fans at all, right? Like, if Jim Curtin does come here, he's going to obviously have to make a statement, right? He's going to pull his license out and say, I'm ready to party, right?
Like, that's probably context or something like that.
Yeah, well, no, and like, look, let's just say this, like, from what we've seen, right, and especially what we've seen with him in the Atlanta-Philadelphia rivalry, Curtin's an asshole. That's what he is, right? That's what fans think of him. So if he comes here... What's that?
Hindsight thought that of him too.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, and that's where a lot of it started, and then obviously the Athletic article, talking about that. It's a mess with it. But if he comes in here and he wins, people are going to forgive and forget, and just start hoping for trophies. And I don't know. It's tough. We'll see. You just wish that he didn't make those comments, because I think a lot of people would be more positive on it right here.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I don't know. But there's another manager. There's another manager that just became available. I believe it was yesterday. And
Yes.
that is
The
Tata Martino.
Wait, who?
I've heard of that guy.
I think I know that guy.
He brought a trophy here as well. Now, no one really thinks that he's actually coming back here or anything like that. And it sounds like this is back to the family thing, right? Like being closer to the family, and that's why that's why he claimed that he was leaving MLS. He didn't like the travel, right? So I want to make sure I'm not rewriting history here. That was one of the main reasons, was there was too much travel throughout the season. Correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it. But going back to the question you bring it back, no, absolutely not. I mean, nothing is Tata that. I mean, why would he leave Miami for Atlanta again? I mean, either there's something he wants back at home in Argentina, or something else. Like maybe he is, like you said, his family. He was very connected to Newell's Old Boys. That's his hometown club. San Lorenzo, live there in Argentina. Yeah, I don't know what jobs are open down there, but maybe he's keen to get back down there and get back into the Argentinian league. But yeah, he's a Newell's guy, and maybe he's waiting for that to come open. Who knows? I'm just speculating.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I remember from his time in Atlanta was he was sad that because like his family, like his wife and stuff, didn't come to Atlanta with him, so he missed them a lot. And I think that's kind of the same case here. So as far as it's been reported, it's been personal reasons. So nothing by the club saying that they're not happy with him. But yeah, I mean, all the best to him. Hopefully, he goes and it doesn't close the door for him necessarily returning to MLS, I don't think. But for the time being, this is it for Tata.
I don't.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I'm really frustrated. Not frustrated, but I'm really puzzled by the reaction to Inter Miami fans who kind of had their knives out against him. I mean, he's a terrific coach. He's wanted this league. He knows what it takes to win this league, and I feel like there's a bit of revisionist history on the part or Inter Miami fans to say good riddance to him. That's very disappointing to see that, but you wonder what their next move is down there in Miami. But again, like I think we all agree, he was good for the club for the first couple of years, but yeah, bring somebody else in.
It has to do that anger mainly has to do, from what I've talked with Miami folks about. It's kind of just the expectations were higher for this team going into the season.
Of course,
you were competing for pretty much every trophy. The thought was, Messi in CONCACAF Champions League or CONCACAF Champions Cup, as it's called now, has to dominate, right? And then they just get bounced, and nothing happens there. Leagues Cup, you don't really get anything there. You do set a points record, the Shield, cool, but you can't cap it off with MLS Cup.
Right.
Like that was a huge expectation. Not only that, but you get eliminated by the worst team going into the playoffs. Ha.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I understand Miami fans' frustrations when you have what is the best player in the world, the best soccer player to ever grace, soccer, and a very, very well constructed, arguably one of the best constructed MLS rosters in the history of the league. You have to do better, and if you want to claim that this is one of the better MLS teams across history, like you have to win MLS Cup. That's kind of a criteria there.
Yeah, but not to kind of keep it on Inter Miami, but the pressure of the next manager is going to be massive. Like for what you just said, considering what's on that roster. Like,
and
gotta be Xavi, right?
I agree, but the roster is. You talk about how great the roster is, but defensively they weren't great, right? And I think that they needed to upgrade it in quite a few positions with that.
yeah.
But I think there's a lot of Miami fans and there's a lot of Messi fans, and I think that those are two different things. And
Yeah,
this is a
no,
conversation
exactly.
for another day. But I think there's a lot of Messi fans that just came in and jumped on board and. One, don't understand the rules of MLS and understand what salary caps are and just say, why can't you just go buy the best defenders in the world and win every game 7-0? Well, unfortunately, Miami was winning a lot of games 7-5, right? And
Yeah.
very high scoring games. And they just don't understand that. I mean, I'm listening to our boys, the Battered Herons, all the time, and I can definitely tell there's Miami fans and there's Messi fans, and they're two completely different people. And Tata had been getting the Tata out thing since basically like May and June. And actually, if you want to go back even further, it was through their international tour at the preseason. You were already seeing people say Tata out during that. Remember that whole international tour that they did? And they were not doing very well to start that at all. And it already started there where you started seeing people complain about Tata, and it just kept growing, even though they kept going on the standings, right? And I don't know. It's been rough to watch, right? And I'm first when I saw it, I was like, okay, there's conspiracies. He's being forced out. I don't believe that at all. But you got to imagine the pressure on him is, and like you said, Cindy, to the next one as well, is extremely high. When you have, the salary that you have on there, and same with anyone that was in Atlanta United, right? Early on, right? After you left from Tata, any person that came in had high expectations, win MLS Cup, win trophies. Frank de Boer won 2 trophies in there, and the pressure on him was still insane, right?
Yeah.
People still hated him, and that's what happens when you go to a club that has high expectations, a huge fan base. It's rough on him, and and I would say with Tata as well is, yeah, if you want to spend time with your family and you're getting harassed on the internet for finishing with the best record, I understand you had the biggest upset in MLS history here, but still, the guy did a lot for this team.
No, absolutely.
So. Anyways, with that said, we're gonna move on from the. We got a game here, but we still got more news to get to. But we did do some polls today on Twitter, so we're gonna go over those real quick. So the first one.
Before that, you know who else is not returning in 2025?
Well, hold on. I'm just doing the coaching poll here since it's relevant to this.
Sorry.
So we asked, who would you prefer to be the next manager of Atlanta United? And we had the 3 options: Rob, Tata, and Curtin. Jim Curtin got 24%. Tata got 25%. And Rob got 51%.
Yeah.
The feels are real for Rob, right? They just keep going up, right?
No,
I think it was when we did the spaces throughout the season, it was just kind of a couple of people coming in saying, yeah, I think Rob could keep it. And then it just keeps on growing. Another person joins in, and you see these videos every week. Atlanta United is actually creating everything for him. I said they're creating his resume, but they're creating the hype for him, constantly releasing these videos, right, of behind the scenes. And anyone that watches these go, I would love to play for this guy, right? Like the fans are saying, this guy is a motivator. And it's fun to watch these type of things. And just shout out to Atlanta United for continuing to make these videos. I think this is what we've wanted for a long time. Seeing, humanizing some of these players and humanizing the manager. I mean, there's some people that are still anti-Rob, think that he's not very good at tactics and that he's just winning on vibes right now. I would disagree on some of that. He's definitely made some changes in some big games to get them, points or a result. He's obviously still younger in his coaching days, but we have definitely seen him being able to make changes to get the win. And do either of you disagree with that?
Nope.
I agree completely. And one of the things really that you've seen from him is he's gone back to, well, I don't know if to say back, but he's started using Dax McCarty a lot more in a starting capacity in a midfield 3 where he's able to control the midfield a lot better and use his passing ability to Atlanta's benefit. Because Dax did that a lot with Nashville and previous teams that he's been at. And Nashville, part of the reason that Nashville's gotten worse this season is because Dax isn't there to play the balls that he has, like the ones that he played for the first couple of goals in Game 3 against Miami. Like those are experience. Those are, his ability as a player. And also just his experience. I really liked, I think it was Extra Time. Yeah, it was an Extra Time interview that they did this week with Dax, where basically he talked through kind of how he prepared to take on Messi and how the thoughts that went throughout that game. And one of the things that he explained was, he used his experience to realize, okay, well, these other players like Redondo and whatever, they can have the ball, they can start attacking. Just don't let them get it to the best player on the field, the best player in the history of the game. And so you'd notice he starts kind of shadowing Messi a lot more. He starts kind of blocking the lane to him, and him being there and doing that essentially shuts Miami down in a lot of aspects, because a lot of their attacking play does flow through Messi when he's on the field. And so if you eliminate him as an option there and you limit what he's able to do, well, hey, you figured out the key to shut down Inter Miami. And I think that really works. And so huge credit to Dax, and huge credit to Rob for seeing that Dax can, even though he's about to retire, he can give you a lot right there, just directing on the field, just with his presence, with being the veteran player that he is. He still has a lot to offer you.
Yeah, and real quick, is there a coincidence that Dax posts a video flying on Spirit Airlines and then Spirit files bankruptcy a couple days later? just
is he doing us all a favor?
Right? I don't know. That was the first thing I thought of when I'm like, I've seen Spirit in my timeline twice, specifically in like 48 hours. I gotta laugh out of that. But what you were alluding to, Sydney, is
you know who else?
Sorry, you could lead into it.
You
were prepped. You were prepped. You do this.
Tear the Band-Aid off.
I'll leave.
You know who else helped Atlanta United a lot in 2017 and 2018? Besides
Joseph Martinez. Sorry,
Joseph Martinez. Joseph Martinez. No, it's come out that Joseph is not coming back. Tom Burger reported that Joseph is not coming back to Inter Miami. Well, probably not Inter Miami either, but Montreal, and he was, guys, on a really good run of form for Montreal toward the end of the season. He's part of the reason why they're able to get into the wild card match. We all know what happened when Montreal played Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So,
and in Montreal,
in Montreal, yeah, and in Montreal. Question needs to be asked: do you bring him back on a inexpensive contract? I mean, he's probably going to command a decent amount of money. I mean, not what he was making, not nearly what he was making with Atlanta United, but he's still going to be demanding, a good amount of money to, make sure that he's properly compensated in relation to what he believes he can still contribute to MLS. Guys, he's on a $1.3 million contract, and I feel like that's part and parcel to why Montreal aren't bringing him back. It makes no sense to them from a business standpoint, for a purely fiscal sense, to bring him back on that contract with an option in 2025. So, do you bring him back?
Why doesn't it make sense? I'm just curious. Why do you think it makes sense?
He's getting paid $1.3 million for decent contributions, not great contributions. I feel like Montreal just saying, you know what, we're just going to cut our losses. We appreciate your contributions, but we need to free up this money. We need to free up these funds for us in 2025 to take that next step. So I can see why Montreal are doing it, not bringing him back on that option year. Do you bring him back to Atlanta on a decent contract? Maybe a TAM contract or something like that. I don't know, maybe like 500 or something. Just throwing a number out there. What do you guys think?
Henry, you're making like you were like scratching your beard thinking, but there was no beard there. So,
yeah.
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking no. As much as I hate to say it, because Joseph is obviously a huge part of Atlanta United's history, but I just don't think it happens. And the main reason is the Garth interview that recently came out, where, and we talked about this, I think, on the last show, where they were talking about, the personalities in the locker room, the players on the team, you're never going to win we're never going to do anything with that, that whole narrative. And we were like, oh yeah, that applies to like Gigi, that applies to, Amada or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like that same personality that we've kind of attributed to Gigi as being what Garth was talking about in that interview, that's Joseph. Joseph doesn't like to lose. Joseph is a strong, personality. He's that kind of, bull kind of guy. I don't know if that makes sense, but he's, and he showed it when the team struggled in 2021, when the team struggled in 2022. Things just weren't going right. And he was kind of the locker room diva. And I mean no offense by saying that, no. But he was. And ultimately, if Garth and co were ultimately trying to get rid of this year version of that, which was Gigi, at least that's what we're assuming, why would you bring another one back? And especially one that you knew you had a falling out with before, and one that is probably not going to give you the same goal scoring return that Gigi did, or that or that Joseph even did back then. Like he's not going to be the same Joseph, even though he was scoring quite a bit for Montreal this season. Like he's not going to give you 2018, 19, 17 Joseph.
No.
So why bring that personality back if you're trying to kind of you move that away this season? Why are you bringing one back? That's my thing. That's why I don't think he's coming back.
I'll throw out another reason. What does Scar say that he wants, right? Prime age players. Joseph Martinez is certainly not a prime age player. I mean, he's like 30, 31, right? Which is hard to believe because it feels like he's a lot younger because he came in to MLS the same year Atlanta United started playing. So 31 years old, he'll be 32 in next May. He's not the player that fits Atlanta United's archetype. And I think pretty much it's that simple, right? Why would you bring in a striker at his age with his injury history? And Garth understands this. He understands how important Joseph Martinez is to the history of Atlanta United, but he also understands, this guy's been injured. He's been dealing with a leg injury. He's kind of recovered from that. He, had a good run of form, really good run of form toward the end of this year for Montreal, but he's 31 years old. He'll be 32 in May. So I think it's really as simple as that, just at that point, you just say, hey, you can get a lot better player. And when I say better, that's not obviously not a knock against Joseph Martinez. You could get a more productive player for a much better price. That's where I'm at. You don't want to make. Sorry. Okay. I was going to say, you don't want to make sentimental signings like, gosh, this guy was here for 2017, 2018, let's bring him back. You don't want to sign players just based on that alone. Joseph Martinez, for as much as he's done with Atlanta United, is not the player that he was in 2017, 2018, 2019, nowhere close. So that's where I come out on that.
13 starts, 10 substitutions, 11 goals. If he came in as a non-TAM player, would you be interested?
As a maybe as a backup. But the question is, will he want to come back as a backup?
Well, that's
what you got to ask.
Right. And so I've been asking these questions just because I'm interested because, obviously there's a lot of different scenarios that you could have it here. I've been against it for a while now because I know that's been a conversation, especially seeing the rise of Joseph. And I think we started talking about this after he came to Mercedes-Benz Stadium a few months ago, and then obviously playing him in the playoffs. But how difficult would it be for anyone to come in here? So he's the backup, right? And you sign a DP striker. Mm. As soon as that DP striker struggles at all, misses a penalty, right? Misses that or misses a couple opportunities. The sentimental fans that are saying this guy is not it. Joseph Martinez is our starter. You get the striker that obviously all of a sudden has pressure on him, right? The DP striker will have a lot of pressure on him. There's obviously a feel weird thing there with Joseph there, knowing that everybody wants Joseph playing as opposed to him. I think that would just be a difficult situation for anyone coming in, unless they were super cool with each other and he was fine with it. But that's got to be an awkward situation, just in general, for anyone that would have to come into that type of situation.
You don't want to drive a wedge between players in the locker room. I think that's what you bring up an excellent point. Like, that's what's going to happen. Exactly what's going to happen. And then you run the risk of, okay, there's a wedge between player X and Joseph Martinez because Joseph's going to want his minutes and he'll probably get out there. But then what do you do with this other guy, once he comes back?
So we did the poll and we asked everybody, would you bring Joseph Martinez back to Atlanta on a reasonable contract? Now, we could have added so many different types of things to this and done it multiple times, but a reasonable contract, you could take it to wherever you were. And for some people, reasonable contract might have been giving him a DP contract and saying, that's reasonable, bring the man back. So we didn't really clarify what reasonable was, so we left that to everyone's imagination. But can you, I don't know, if you've already looked, don't guess, or don't give your prediction here, but what do you think? What was the percent of people that said that they wanted Joseph Martinez back?
50-50.
50-50?
I think it might have been a little. I think it might have been a little more. I'm gonna say
70%. 70%.
70% wanted him back.
Yes.
Again, though, like, is it sentiment, or do you think that Joseph Martinez will really be the best choice for this team moving forward? Because guess what? In 2 years, you're going to have to start this conversation over again. Like, we need a new striker. And Joseph Martinez is, 34 years old, and he's at retirement age, 35 years old. So Garth Lager has said, I want to make moves for long-term players. So Martinez at his age is not going to be a long-term player. And with this injury history, he's not going to be a long-term player.
Yeah, but with the backup, I mean, from there, even depending on what you're looking for there. But again, I'm against it. But still, I understand what people, they remember. Sports fans remember the most recent things they saw, and exactly what you said earlier, Sydney. If it wasn't for Joseph Martinez, Montreal would not even be in that playing game, right? Yeah. People remember that he came and scored a brace in Atlanta, right? People remember that in the playoff game he scored a goal. And then he also scored in penalties. Like, these are things that people remember, right? And then they go back and start thinking, okay, well, he's doing that now. Remember what he did when he was in Atlanta and saying, let's bring him back here, though. Bring him home. And I think ultimately it's not for the best here, unless it's obviously something like a crazy minimum type veteran type contract to bring him in here as a backup. I just don't think that it's good overall there for the locker room. And I don't know. But it's funny that all these things kind of happen like in back-to-back days, right? Tata, then Joseph. And it was like, you're slowly starting to see this like come back together and like, all right, is Tito going to post a picture of himself in an Atlanta United uniform and real short shorts? Is that what's going to happen here? And then all of a sudden, it's the trifecta, right? Short shorts, Joseph, Tata combined together, and we got MLS Cup back. Like,
LGP comes back.
Right?
The Miggy talk again.
Yeah.
I mean, we've already had that. That's already been stamped on our bingo card this year, right? Like that's already been the thing. So, what a long season this has been for sure. It never feels like it's gonna end, and I hope it doesn't at this point, right? I think once October started, we're like, please just let the season be over, and now we're begging for it to just keep going one more week.
Yeah, exactly.
So we had I don't know. Henry and I were texting about this earlier. Not a real transfer rumor here, but something that seems solid here. It was just kind of in passing here. But Henry, you want to talk about this?
Yeah. So there was a report from, I believe it was an Argentinian outlet, saying that Atlanta United and Austin FC are two MLS clubs that are interested in River Plate center back Paulo Diaz, also a Chilean international. He is, I believe, 27. And yeah, Tyler.
Hola.
You come in with that hoodie and everything, feel like I'm about to get robbed.
Emo Tyler.
Give me
I
money.
know, right?
That's not what emo is.
I don't know.
No, I have too much white for ema. The hat, obviously.
Oh,
Sorry to crash the party, by the way.
something else.
No,
Something.
so
We're
good.
talking transfer rumors now. That's what you missed.
Ooh, which one?
Paulo Diaz.
Paulo Diaz. So basically, yeah, River Plate defender, center back. That's the only outlet, though. That's the only report that I've seen for that rumor. First of all. Second of all, for Atlanta United, it doesn't really make sense unless they're planning to move out of either Derek Williams or Luis Abram, who are sitting at that left center back spot. If you want to offload Abram's hefty salary, that would maybe make sense. But then again, also in the report, it says that River Plate is asking for $4 million for him, and I definitely don't think that they're going to pay that much for him.
What if they actually met his partner in the center back pairing, Leandro Gonzalez Perez?
Quiet.
Man, everybody's trying to bring back the greatest hits album,
Right.
with Tata leaving and Joseph dipping out. Now you trying to bring back LGP?
Greg Garza, why not?
Hey,
This is what people do in the FIFA video game, right? They're like, you know what? This Atlanta United team sucks. Let's just start transferring in. Let's just make a couple quick moves and just bring it back.
I'm here for it.
You're not. You
No,
don't
I'm
want to bring
not.
back
I'm
all
only here
these-
temporarily.
But no, I mean, I think we're just talking about it. Who's out, Williams or Abram? If this transfer rumor has weight to it.
No offense, it has to be a Brom.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
no, I agree with that. I was just more rhetorical more than anything. Like, you pay Abram how much money to
Like
really
600, I think.
not? Yeah, and he's getting that paid how much to be primarily on the bench, though. But I think the question is, if you bring in Diaz, what number will he command? How much will you be paying him? You have two starters in Williams and Gregerson, unless you expose Williams in the expansion draft, or you expect to move him. You have two starters. Where do you put Diaz?
Okay,
Well, he's an international too. You said, right, Henry?
Yeah, Abram is closer to like 900,
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
which is a lot for a guy that's on the bench.
And on international duty.
International duty.
You're just swapping out the exact same problem we've been complaining about now since Abram has come in, right? Like he can't help you when Gregerson leaves, right? Because Abram's leaving. So if Diaz is leaving as well, you're potentially paying someone a ton of money, just like Abram, and he's leaving during international break. I don't think that would be anything that would be of use to us, right? I mean, this team is going to continue to get players that play for their country, and they're going to continue to leave, and you're going to have to continue having to play other players, and it just doesn't help you if he's gone. I mean, even you've got youth to take over that spot, right? But what's the point of paying someone that much money to just start here and there? I just don't see it.
Now, I've talked to a few people about this. Don't put too much stock into it. That's all I'm going to say.
I found it interesting that just the one outlet is reporting, and I feel like others have kind of run with it.
I mean, I'll say this is one of those where you have other names being floated for Atlanta United right now, 100%, and you often do that most people never hear about. This is one of those where the agent kind of got a hold of it, I think. This is just my fan fiction a little bit of how it played out. Somebody got a hold of it and just said, hey, let me drop this little dime to X news outlet, whatever, not X, but whatever news outlet. And is trying to build up some hype, which is fine. We see it every off season, right? But I think there's other very important moves that need to be made well before you go find another center back.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Well, you bring up a good point. Like, Atlanta United's got 2 DP spots open, right? And quite a few other moves they're going to have to make. So these agents are definitely going to be Atlanta United, big club. Obviously, spots open. I think my players. I think my son's actually rumored to be a DP and for Atlanta United, right? Like
My
these are just things that are going to start happening.
Henry, you going to join on a U22 contract?
Sure. I mean, if I get the call, FEA.
Let's go. All right, I'm going to dip out. I just had a cop come in and say, hey, I had to crash the party for a second.
Later, Tyler.
Our house is a construction zone. So I'm going to dip back out, but love you guys. Have fun. It's been real.
Happy Thanksgiving next week. But
I was like, wait, what?
We'll be back before then. I don't know what we're doing.
if we don't talk.
Yeah, we'll have to figure that out. What our schedule is next week, right?
We'll work on that.
Well,
Wednesday's like the biggest drinking night of the year.
Hey, it's true. Or biggest drinking day, depending on what you're doing. I'll be in Orlando, so y'all keep an eye on the social medias.
Will do.
All on there.
All right. Have fun.
Thanks, all.
Peace.
Cheers.
FEA.
Fuck them all.
What? What did you say?
Whoa.
Hey, it's 7:48. It's way past the time. We can go.
7:48.
Yeah.
Tyler has somewhere to be.
7:46. What clock are you looking at?
2 minutes. 2 minutes.
2 minute difference, Tyler.
It does. He's in Ohio. There should be no difference here.
All right. We're back.
We're so back.
All right. So, Saturday or Sunday. It's weird that it's on Sunday. We haven't had a Sunday match in quite some time. At that point in time, we are going to know if we advance. We are going to New York. The question is, are we going to be playing at Yankee? Well, it wouldn't be Yankees, is it?
Yes.
I think it will. I think Yankee Stadium will be available at that time.
I don't know. Well, I heard the New York game, they limited their attendance because they literally have a circus in their parking lot, which is crazy. I was on the Nags podcast, and they had a Red Bulls podcaster on, and he brought that up, and I'm like, because they're not even opening the entire, like, their max capacity to whatever it is. They're not having it at max capacity. And I think about that, right? It's New York versus New York, right?
Right.
Any New York versus New York rivalry we have, even the Giants and the Jets, with both teams suck. They still fill the stadium, right? And you get the New York versus New York fights, right? That's what we want to see. We want to go to TikTok later and see all the New York people fighting each other. Any New York rivalry that you have should bring ticket sales in, right? Bring people in. And you're having it, and you can't even fill up the entire stadium because you have a circus in your parking lot. To quote Taylor Twillman, what are you doing, New York? Who goes to a circus in November in a parking lot? Like, okay, I guess you could have a heated. I don't know why I'm going off on this. A heated tent.
I looked it up. It's called Circus Vasquez. Is going on from November 15th to December 15th.
It's not even Barlin Bailey?
No, it's not Barlin Bailey.
It's not even a good one?
Circus Vasquez. That's the first time I've heard of it.
Yes. Hermanos Vasquez, found in 1969 in Mexico City.
Nice.
But yes, that's why Citi Field is partial capacity. And I heard that, Tommy. That's why
that's a real thing. This MLS is so stupid. Why do we podcast?
By the way, Yankee Stadium is unavailable due to a football game, college football game.
A baseball stadium is unavailable due to a football game.
Yes. It's Notre Dame versus Army. Notre Dame versus Army at Yankee Stadium
in New York.
What?
In New York.
Well, I guess Army can really play anywhere and be the home team.
Well, no,
right?
Notre Dame's like
Don't
a
they play
national
somewhere
brand,
else, though?
so they'll draw fans wherever they play. They played in Atlanta. They drew a lot of fans, I'm sure, to Mercedes-Benz when we played Tech. But anyway,
yeah. I mean, they just had Ohio State playing at Wrigley Field.
Yeah,
was
Northwestern
last week. Yeah,
this past Saturday.
It's so silly.
But yeah, like you said, if Atlanta United win, they'll be playing in New York. We just don't know which side of the river they'll be playing in. The New York metropolitan area, that should say. So
yeah,
depends on, we don't know yet what. Well, we'll know on Sunday what side of the river they'll be playing on.
New York or New Jersey.
So we get to Orlando. We talked about it earlier. Atlanta's 2-0 versus them. Can they make it 3? And I know, Sydney, we had another podcast on for Orlando, and I guess, did anyone watch the Orlando series? I'll be honest, I didn't watch much of it. I kind of just watch bits and pieces. Do either of you watch it?
I had to watch. I had to watch some of it for my MLS writing. Yeah, I mean, what do you want to know?
I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but at least from what I saw, it just seemed like there wasn't much of an attack.
Orlando should have won that series going away against Charlotte. Let's be real. Like, it's nothing against Charlotte, nothing against Galina, who's goalkeeper of the year, but if they're pretty much a Facatoras goal away and stoppage time away from being at home. That's the reality of the situation. And it's sort of what we talked about with Alex on Monday is, they didn't really give the best account of themselves against Charlotte FC outside of the one game. Outside of the first game, they blew Charlotte out. Charlotte won at home, and then Orlando Lutora scored in stoppage time, and then they won penalties. So maybe that benefits Atlanta United. Maybe a team that has gotten really hot, guys, toward the back end of the season, which has kind of been their MO over the past few years of the Pareja. Maybe there's a little break in their armor that you can exploit and say, hey, this team hasn't been the best or wasn't the best that it could be against Charlotte. Maybe we can kind of exploit that and get one over on them. We already beat them decision day. We already beat them twice already in the regular season. So their confidence is going to be very, very high going into this match on Sunday against Orlando. Now, it is playoffs. It's a totally different competition, but how do you handle that? And this team, as we said at the beginning, has handled it well so far. What do you do with, the players? What do you do for Orlando? A team that really has been a lot of pressure to take that next step. They won Open Cup 2022, but that's been their only trophy as a club as of yet. And it seems like whenever they get to playoffs, something goes wrong. So that pressure is definitely more on Orlando in this game. I feel like Atlanta, certainly.
I mean, for Atlanta, it doesn't really change much, right? You've been going into games at this point as win or go home. And the last time you were in Orlando, it was the same deal. Win or go home. So really nothing changes from the last time you were here. So just do it, man. Just go in and again, do your job. Now, literally, that's all that matters. You're not depending on other results anymore. It's all up to you. And again, this is a team that you've beaten twice in the regular season now.
Yeah.
And you definitely can do it again. Like what I saw from that Charlotte-Orlando series was an Orlando that, yes, has a very good attack. And if you give them space, they're going to exploit it. And that's just the nature of an Oscar Pareja team. But at the same time, they've had some not great moments up front. Specifically, I'm looking at Ramiro Enrique, who was their number 9 throughout that series. Their starting number 9. And he had so many chances to put game 2 away. And he just couldn't make anything happen. Like part of it was just Kalina standing on his head. The other part was Enrique just not being able to get a good shot on goal. And the same thing happened in game 3. So if Brad can create that same level of frustration in goal for Orlando's, front line, specifically for like Ramiro Enrique, who has had some trouble in recent games, you've got a shot here. You can really make things hard for them, and you can take this, ultimately give them your own surprise in transition moments. And I think Atlanta can definitely give Orlando another upset, because every game at this point is an upset. And that's a funny thing too about this whole playoff run, is that no one's picking on Atlanta to win, and they just don't really care.
Because they brought Enrique in because they thought that McGuire would be sold in the offseason, right? And of course, we all know what happened there. But
he was, and then he wasn't, and then he was, and then he wasn't.
Exactly. It was a mess. But yeah, he came in, and Henry, like you say, hasn't done a whole lot. 8 goals, 2 assists, in the regular season. So they're looking for him to really. Well, no, he was here last year, 2023. I forgot.
Muriel was who was brought in to replace McGuire. And I guess for them, it's a good thing that McGuire didn't leave, because Muriel never really took off, except toward the end of the season when they shifted him back as kind of a false 9, more as like a kind of almost a 10, which is weird. They also got Nico Ladera, who also hasn't really played significant minutes. It's weird because they had a team that I think, if I'm not mistaken, was second in the East last season, and it looked like they improved on it.
Runner-ups, yeah.
And they still ended up kind of worse in the conference, worse in the season. So it's weird, but don't underestimate them. Obviously, they still have some very good attack. Martin Ojeda has been fantastic for them in midfield. Huge chance creation there. Good link-up play with Facu Torres, by the way. And yeah, Muriel, he didn't really have a very hot start to the season, but he has a good groove there where he's in kind of that deeper 9 kind of position. It's weird, but it works for him.
Then Pareja, Gallese, we gotta have to talk about him. Yeah, I feel like he's good for like maybe a couple saves, couple like jaw-dropping saves every time he plays Atlanta United. Just something about Atlanta that brings out the best in him. But he's not the keeper he was, Henry and Tommy, when he first came into MLS with this team. Not the keeper that he was at the beginning of the season, for better or for worse. So that's another real factor you need to take a look at. Will Pedro Gallese be up to the standards, be the keeper that Orlando knows he can be? It really makes things difficult for Atlanta United defensively. So don't want to call him an X factor because we already know what his quality is. We already know what he's capable of, but he's going to need to be at his best and even better if Orlando are to have a chance at getting through.
Think about Orlando and what they're thinking here, right? They had an opportunity to kick Atlanta out of the playoffs, right? And that's obviously a huge thing because they hate Atlanta. If you go to their Twitter, they absolutely despise them. So them, and then you end that game on controversy, right? Like they score the tying goal. All the Atlanta United players are lying on the ground like dead, right? Like just lying there going, we blew it. And then, hold on. However, the goal does not count, and Atlanta's in, and then they go out and they beat Miami, and now they're in this situation where they can go to the conference finals. But the team, if they lose to, might be the reason why they could have knocked out a month ago or 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, and now they got to play them again. Like that's an interesting situation for them, right? I mean, I guess if you're Orlando, maybe you do want to play Atlanta over Miami in this situation. I don't know. Obviously, now that probably changes a little bit because, now they don't really know what to expect from Atlanta, because I feel like every time Atlanta United plays, there's something a little bit different that comes out in these games. And they don't have just 1 or 2 players to really focus on. This is a team effort, right? Like we've seen Atlanta United teams before where it's 1 or 2 players that are consistently doing most of the weightlifting. But here, it seems like it changes from game to game. Saba, Tiare, right? Miranchuk, I mean, we haven't really seen that, but he's had some big games here for the team. I don't know. It's going to be interesting for that. And you add on that Atlanta United, I know everyone hates this, that there was that week, the international break here. But for Atlanta United, it came at a perfect time, right? Tiare could barely move on that field a few weeks ago, right? He was barely moving, constantly on the ground. Gregerson, needed to recover. Silva, I mean, thank you, Sydney, for posting that video last week of me saying that he was the X factor. But again, I say it again, like in a team that lacks DP attackers, giving Silva 2 more weeks to recover. Now, I don't know exactly what the foot injury here is, but he's obviously been able to play. He's obviously been able to cause chaos. He's been able to score. I don't care what you say. Any type of rest on that is good for a player like him. So getting him some rest here, does he start? Probably not. But if you, depending on what the situation here is, if it's close going into the 50th, 60th minute, you bring that man on, and all of a sudden things should open up, and he should be able to attack and cause some pretty scary opportunities for Orlando, right? Like, that's a guy that they do not want seeing. It's like seeing Jurgen Damm come off, coming onto the field here in the 80th minute, right? And I don't think there's been any update, right? Mascara is probably not going to be available for this game,
doubtful,
right?
I think. Doubtful.
Okay. Well, I mean, still, I'd rather have Silva than Mascara in this type of situation, anyways. Obviously with the experience, but I mean, it's interesting, right? Like, there's just a lot of names here, and it's cool that anyone could really score here on this, and it's interesting, right? Because look at the players that have been scoring these goals throughout these playoffs, right? And playing game. Sleesh, right? I mean, I think he scored 1 goal all season, right? I think this was his 2nd goal. So he's got one. Gregerson, Brooks. I mean, these are guys that have, it's not just your striker scoring, right? You've got a little bit of everyone in every position being able to do something. We need a Marinchuk goal, right? Like, let's get that coming in here. Let's see him score a banger against Orlando. Welcome to the rivalry, right?
Yeah.
Welcome there. Score a goal here. Knock them out of the playoffs.
It's been a whole team effort. Yeah, it's been a whole
Brad
team effort.
goal. Why not?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Could you imagine? Could you imagine? And Jack's already saying if he scores, he's going to try and imitate Guzan being stuck in the net. I don't know how you do that, but I'm sure that was a practice, right? I'm sure he practiced with the few players to hold him back while he just does this.
Yeah.
Like, you got to see that, right? Like, that would be amazing, for sure. And again with Dax, the Extra Time podcast. If you haven't had a chance to listen to it, it is a very good listen, for sure.
Yeah.
So, guys, we've come to the time of the show where we give our predictions. And Henry, since you're the youngest, you have to go first.
I don't like that rule. You should change it.
I don't make the rules, but that's
sure.
Let's roll with it, Henry.
You got it. Okay. I've been right 2 times so far with Atlanta's playoff stuff, so I'm gonna go with Atlanta wins 3-1.
Woo!
Who scores?
Let's scores?
Up the ante a little bit.
Okay.
When you do fan fiction here, you can't go half full fiction. You go full fan fiction. So you give a prediction, you got to give everything. Who scores? What minute? Is the sun still out? Is it raining? You tell us all of it.
Over under. Okay. All right. I'll say. Crap. I'm gonna say Saba. I'll say Saba around like 20th minute. I'll say Maranchuk around. I'll say around the 50th minute, and then Dax scores a random goal at like the 70th, so he can do his whole celebration thing. And then for Orlando, I don't know, I guess Facu Torres at like the 40th minute.
I say, unless Tommy, you want to go next.
I'm the eldest here.
Yeah, you are.
Boomer.
I'm going to say 2-1 Atlanta. I think Torres will get his, of course. But I think for Atlanta, I feel Saba will score, and then I'm going to say Silva. Shade Silva will score go-ahead goal in the second half, much akin to what he did in Miami. Maybe not as dramatic as he did against Miami in Game 2, but I see Saba and Silva scoring. Saba in the first half, Silva scoring, let's say the 80th minute, and Atlanta sees it out to get to the Eastern Conference Finals against either New York City FC or the New York Red Bulls.
So you must have had my script over here, because I pretty much almost was going to say the exact same thing. I think that Saba and Silva end up. I can't call him the X Factor and then he not do anything.
Yeah.
Then we just have to put the video down and call it a failure. But yeah, I think it's 2-1. I think it's close here. I prefer Henry's prediction though, because I don't want to stress out at the end of the game. I would just like to be sitting back, having a drink and saying Orlando. But yeah, I feel like it's going to be close. I feel like all these games are going to be extremely close this weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of interesting storylines here. I mean, the East has had their big upsets. Can the West provide those this weekend as well? Could you get one of these LA teams out? And I know I wasn't on the MLS show on Monday, but I think one of the LAs go down, and I think it's LAFC. I think that they are going to get kicked out here.
Yeah.
As much as I think, Garber is his last golden ticket is LA versus LA
Exactly.
and the Western Conference Championships, because obviously the circus and MLS do not care about New York versus New York. They only care about LA versus LA.
Right.
They gotta have something here, but I think it's gonna get ruined. I think we're just gonna have a crazy. Somehow we're gonna have just a crazy Final Four: Atlanta, New York, Minnesota, maybe. I don't know. Let's see what happens. It's gonna get crazy.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. I'm looking forward to it, and I agree. I think it'll be a battle on Sunday. I don't think the gulf between Atlanta or Orlando is as wide as some people will make it out to be. Maybe Orlando has more talent than Atlanta does, but I just think from a tactical standpoint, from a vibe standpoint, I think both teams will be pretty evenly matched. I think it's terrific. I certainly prefer this matchup over what it could have been, Atlanta versus Charlotte, I think.
Well, we have one more poll results to go over here. So
Let's
we
do
said,
it.
what's your confidence level of Atlanta beating Orlando? 21% said no chance we lose. I like the confidence. 5% said no chance. Orlando fans, get off of our Twitter. And then 74% said should be close. And two of us think it's going to be close. I mean, Henry, yours could still be close. I mean, if they just put it away at the end and go up 3-1, that's great. We know how this team can somehow do holding leads, so this will be a little less scary.
I'm like you. I just don't want to be stressing for 30 minutes again toward the end of the game. Have that end of the game scene that we had on the Miami watch along for Game 3,
right?
Where we're just like, please end it. Oh God.
Well, the whistle.
Yeah. Speaking of, are we gonna have a watch along for this?
I will be on the road, so if we do,
right.
I don't know if I'll be able to join, unfortunately.
Tommy?
We'll figure something out. We'll see. I've got my watch along party. I invited everyone that was in my household last game back here. Tina's making her famous prime rib. That's our day, but we'll figure it out. And I was gonna say, Sydney, are you gonna at least pull over for the lineups? Can you go to a gas station? Can you? Because it seemed like you have things timed perfectly, right? You're going to Texas, right?
Yeah, I'm going to Texas. We'll find try to find some random gas station and do lineups, or I'll probably do it from the car if I'm not driving. We'll see. We'll figure something out, I'm sure.
Make sure you watch the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies first, because you need to know or any horror movie, you need to know which gas stations on the way to Texas that you do not pull into, right? Because there's always some ones there. If it's BP, you're safe. I've never seen anyone in a horror movie get killed at a BP. But if it's like Bob's gas station, right, and you walk in there and there's like that fan going real slow, those are the ones where you're like, nope, just turn around. Do not use the bathroom either. That's not to die. It's just don't use gas station bathrooms in general. It's not about death, but it could be, or you could get some disease in there. So with that said, just kept trying to go with that.
Great.
Be careful. Be careful that on your way to Texas.
I will.
We will figure something out, but we will at least be back for lineups on Sunday around 2:30ish, and then we will be back for spaces after, and hopefully we will be celebrating and talking about how we're going to buy our Eastern Conference championship gear.
Yeah.
And we got a question here: who's going to Orlando? Tyler will be going to Orlando. So if you see Tyler, give him a high five, pet his beard, whatever you want to do. He likes all of that. And with that said, I think we should hit the music. And I'm not gonna say FEA, but suck it, Orlando. You're going down. There's no music.
No, there is.
Music's playing.
Oh,
Yeah.
I can't even hear the music. This is weird.
That happens with age.
Is this what happens when you get old? Right, I was gonna say. I don't hear it at all.
Just imagine it's there.
I can still hear it. I'm seeing everyone, and thank you to all Patreon backers, but not hearing it is weird to me. But I still kind of like. Was I synced up with it or no?
Close enough.
Okay, thank you for lying, Sydney. All right, all. We will talk to you on Sunday.
See ya.
Peace.